friends, welcome back to my channel. I recently got back from my recent trip to America, and while I was there, I went on quite a shopping spree. I was given a gift card, there were sales, I got a lot of books, okay. But I already own a lot of books. Actually, since the last time you saw this bookshelf, I have gained quite a few more. As you can see, I have the entire Red Rising series now. This stack is larger. I own a lot of books, okay? I feel kind of bad about the fact that I did get so many new books when I have so many waiting for me. So I decided to do an unhaul along with my haul. So I'm going to go through and I'm going to show you all the books that I'm going to be getting rid of, as well as the books that I recently purchased while I was in America. I'm just going to go ahead and get started, and the first book that I got was Until the World Falls Down by Lynde. I am almost finished with this book already. It is sprayed edges. It also has art on the inside. Hold on. Ooh. 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 This is a romantasy book, and I am not a huge romantasy girl, okay? Very, very few of them that I genuinely enjoy. The reason I got this book is because this is a romantasy based off of the film The Labyrinth by Jim Henson. I am #1 fan of The Labyrinth. It is my favorite movie of all time. So when I heard there was a romantasy based off of that movie, I had to get it. I will say, this is the only one that, again, I've made progress in. The beginning is based off of The Labyrinth, like how it all starts, but I would not say like anything else is based off The Labyrinth. Like The Labyrinth itself is very different. The character's different. There aren't any goblins. There's no hoggle, okay? Just be prepared that if you really, really love The Labyrinth and you're expecting like basically a retelling of The Labyrinth, that's not what this is. It is very loosely inspired by The Labyrinth, but I'm still having a good time. I'm having fun. I read like 250 pages of this the other day. So one of my new books that I'm bringing in, the first book that I am getting rid of, is Our Marvelous Light by Freya Marske. I have had this for 3 or 4 years on my bookshelf. I would love to read it. I'm not going to. Realistically, I am just not going to read this book. When I look at my bookshelf, I don't even glance at it. It's not even an option in my head. And even though it's gorgeous, it's a historical fantasy, which is something that I enjoy, it's a queer story, which is something that I love, I'm just not going to pick this up. And I know that it's better to give it to someone who is going to read it rather than let it just keep collecting dust on my shelf. The next book that I got, I'm going to go through 2 novellas, actually. I got quite a few novellas. So we're getting into some of my horror. I got a lot of horror while I was there because horror is much easier to get in America than it is in Korea. People sell thrillers and fantasy and romance very, very often here in Korea on like Facebook pages, at, bookstores. They're pretty easy to find. Horror is pretty uncommon and very expensive and difficult to find. So I stocked up on horror, particularly while I was home. First one I got was Cold Snap by Lindy Ryan. I have heard very good things about this. This is about a woman whose husband recently passed away, and her son go to a cabin deep in the woods to rebuild and hide from the grief and all of that. While she's there, she sees a moose walking upright. So it sounds spooky, and it sounds fun. If you like horror, you'll probably think this sounds fun. If you don't like horror, that probably sounds bad. But I'm very excited about this one. Then I got Carmilla by Sheridan Fanu. It is the lesbian vampire romance horror that inspired Dracula. It's just really pretty painted edges. I've been wanting to read this. It's a novella. Might as well. Okay, the next book I'm getting rid of is The Testaments by Margaret Atwood. I got this at a used bookstore here in Korea. I do plan on reading this book. I read Handmaid's Tale last year, and I do want to read this. However, I did Handmaid's Tale as an audiobook, and I think I'm going to do The Testaments as an audiobook. I don't think I'm going to read this physically. I'd rather clear the space from my bookshelf. I also know that once I finish it, I'm probably not going to want to keep it. So I'm just going to get rid of it. I'd rather someone else who'd rather read the hard copy version have the hard copy version. Next new book is Never Whistle at Night by a bunch of people. So this is a indigenous dark fiction anthology. Supposed to be scary, dark, deal with trauma and ghosts, curses, hauntings, monstrous creatures, complex family legacies, desperate deeds, and chilling acts of revenge by indigenous authors about indigenous communities. So I've heard very, very good things about this. I am deeply interested in indigenous cultures and particularly indigenous like mythologies and stuff. So if any of that comes through in here, I know I'm going to like it. Next book I'm getting rid of is The Lost Apothecary by Sarah Penner. I don't know how to say her name. I enjoyed this book. I did read this. This is about a dual timeline. One is about a woman who is currently exploring London, and she stumbles upon a clue to the unsolved apothecary murders that haunted London 200 years ago, and then the previous timeline of that apothecary 200 years ago. I had a good time when I was reading it. It just isn't a book that I need to keep on my shelf anymore. I'm not going to reread it. It's just taking up space at this point. Next is another 2 books that I got while I was in America. These 2 should go together because it is What Moves the Dead and What Feasts at Night by T. Kingfisher. These are 2 novellas. It's a duology. I believe it's a duology. I think this is finished now. So this is a reimagining of Edgar Allan Poe's The Fall of the House of Usher. I have heard very good things about this series. I feel like everyone who has read it has enjoyed it, so why not give it a shot? Again, I want to read more novellas this year, so why not? The next book I'm getting rid of is Scythe by Neal Shusterman. So this was my book club book last month, and I did enjoy reading this. I thought it was a really good YA dystopian, sci-fi dystopian, and I will probably continue reading the series. However, I don't want to own the series. I don't feel the desire to fill up my shelf with more of these books. I would rather read them just digitally on my iPad or something. Although I did enjoy this book and I do recommend this book, I'm not going to keep it. This is about a world that has no hunger, no disease, no war, no death. You are able to regenerate yourself, and there are reapers, and reapers are the only way that people die. And it's following 2 main characters who are training to become reapers. I think it's pretty good. If you haven't read it, I would recommend reading it. I just don't want it taking up so much space on my bookshelf. The next one we're breaking away from horror for a second, and I got The Book Club for Troublesome Women by Marie Bostwick. This book, as I was walking through the bookstore, I saw it on a shelf and I said, give that to me immediately. I love feminist stories, particularly like feminist historical fiction is really my bread and butter. I love those stories. I think that's why I like Taylor Jenkins Reid's books so much. That's what a lot of them are about. At the very top, it says, Margaret Ryan never really meant to start a book club or a feminist revolution in her buttoned-up suburb. It's basically about a new woman like moves to their neighborhood and they start a book club, and she has like a lot of feminist ideals and things like that. Don't come over here and knock my camera over. Would you like to come say hello? Say hi. You're not the one who I was talking to, actually. I was talking to Goose. There's Goose. Next book I'm getting rid of is I See You by Clare Mackintosh. I also read this book recently. This is a thriller. A woman sees a photo of herself in the classifieds advertising like a website and a phone number. And it's her like investigating. You know, she's investigating how and why she ended up in that newspaper and in those classifieds. I did enjoy it when I read it. However, I immediately forgot the plot of this book. I read this in November when I broke my reading slump. When I tell you I immediately forgot the plot of this book, I saw it on my bookshelf 2 weeks later and I said, what was that book about? Very not memorable for me. It also might have just been the fact that I read like 5 thrillers in a row, that it just didn't leave an impact compared to some of the other ones. But because of that, I decided not to keep it. The next new book is A Far Better Thing by H.G. Perry. So this is a retelling of A Tale of Two Cities, which honestly, I did not know when I read the blurb. I never read Tale of Two Cities, and when I read the blurb, I just said, oh, that sounds fun. And I had no idea. I sent it to my friend. Like, I read the blurb on the back to my friend. She said, is that based on A Tale of Two Cities? Because those are the same characters' names. And I said, I didn't know that. It's a heart-rending fantasy of fairy revenge set during the French Revolution. It seemed fun. This is one of the few books I picked up that I genuinely, knew nothing about. I just thought it would be fun. Getting rid of The Cabin at the End of the World by Paul Tremblay. So I read this book when I first got back into reading in 2021, 2022? Can't remember exactly, but pretty heavy. It's a little bit graphic, but it's really not much. This is about a little girl and her two parents who are staying in a cabin. Yeah, they're vacationing in a remote cabin, and some people come and break into their house and hold them hostage, and horror things ensue. It's kind of sad, but it's really not that intense of a story. It's not as intense as what I thought it was going to be, and I remember being relatively disappointed by it. So I'm not going to reread it. I don't know why I've kept it on my shelf for as long as I have, but I just need to get rid of it. I don't need to own this book anymore. Next new book is The Brightness Between Us by Elliot Schreffer. I don't know how to say his name. I should have looked up how to say people's names. This is the sequel to The Darkness Outside Us, which is a sci-fi YA romance, and it's one of the first sci-fi books I ever read. I love that book. I do want to reread it before I read this one, but I only recently learned that there was a sequel. So when I was walking around the store and I saw this, I said, oh, 100% I'm reading that book. I need to buy it because I absolutely loved the first book. I really hope that I love it on the second read and that I enjoyed the sequel as well. Hi, Goose. Goose says hello. But we'll see as I get into it, whether I like it or not. I really hope that I like it, especially because I like sci-fi a little bit more now, so that's not as off-putting as it was the very first time that I read it. Next book I'm getting rid of is Vicious by V.E. Schwab. I own 3 or 4 V.E. Schwab books, haven't read a single one. This is one of them. I know this is a duology. I don't have the second book. I've had this book for 3 years, and I have not read it. I'm not going to read it anytime soon. I don't need it anymore. I actually don't even know what this book is about. Victor and Eli started out as college roommates, but brilliant, arrogant, lonely boys who recognize the same sharpness and ambition in each other. In their senior year, a shared research interest in adrenaline, near-death experiences, and seemingly supernatural events reveals an intriguing possibility that under the right conditions, someone could develop extraordinary abilities. But when their thesis moves from academic to the experimental, things go horribly wrong. Sounds fun, sounds cool. I'm not going to read it anytime soon. Getting rid of it. Next is This Is My Body by Lindsay King Miller. This is a queer horror. So this is about a gay single mom who has cut off ties with her extremely Christian family, and her daughter starts to show signs of possession, so she has to reconnect with her family. Yeah, so this is a exploration of religious trauma, childhood shame. It sounded interesting. Again, I really like feminist novels. This is also a religious trauma novel, which I don't have any religious trauma. I'm just very critical of religion in a way that I think this would be very interesting for me. Next book I'm getting rid of is This Is Love by Elizabeth Lim. I read this book somewhat recently, a couple months ago. This is a retelling of Cinderella where she never tries on the slipper and she ends up working in the castle and she stumbles upon a conspiracy within the castle. It was fine. Super quick, super easy read. I thought for like a YA retelling of a Disney story, I thought it was pretty unique and interesting, but it just really wasn't something I need to keep on my shelf. So I'm getting rid of it. My next new book is A God in the Shed by J.F. Dubois. Once again, not knowing how to read a single person's name. I don't know what this book is about. I have heard it's very good. I have heard incredible things about this book. A lot of people recommend this book. I did not read the blurb. I genuinely have no idea what this book is about. If you want to know what this is about, you're going to have to Google it yourself. Sorry. I like going into books blind if I can, and this is one that I have heard good things, and if I can go into it blind, I'm going to. I just want to find out as I read it. So, A God in the Shed. The last one I'm getting rid of is Reflection by Elizabeth Lim. This is the same series as the Cinderella book. This is the Mulan one. I have never read this one. It says, when Captain Shang is mortally wounded in battle, Mulan must travel to the underworld, Daiyu, in order to save him from certain death, but King Yama, the ruler of Daiyu, is not willing to give Shang up easily. With the help of Shang's great lion guardian Shishi, Mulan must find Shang's spirit and leave by sunrise or become King Yama's prisoner forever. Mulan, still disguised as soldier Ping, wrestles with the decision whether or not to reveal her true identity to her closest friend. I'm not going to read this anytime soon. I've had this on my shelf for many years. I'm surprised I read the Cinderella one recently. I just don't need to keep it. Also, the story itself doesn't really appeal to me. I have read as well the Hercules one in this series, and I like that a lot more. Hercules is my favorite Disney movie, and I really enjoyed that one. I'm keeping that book as well, but I'm going to get rid of these two. I don't need them. Final book. Last book I got while I was in America was Alchemy of Secrets by Stephanie Garber. So this is also the only hardcover that I got. Stephanie Garber is the author of the Once Upon a Broken Heart trilogy, which I did really enjoy. That trilogy, specifically the first two. I did not like the third book. I loved the first two though. This is her debut as an adult fantasy, so hopefully it's good. It has fun sprayed edges. It was on sale for 50% off when I was there, so why not? Hopefully I like it. I also don't know what this book is about. All I know is that it's an adult fantasy. I don't know if that means that the themes are adult. I don't know if that means that there's like explicit content. I don't know what makes it adult versus her YA books, but I'm hoping that it being adult means that I will like it a little bit more than I liked Once Upon a Broken Heart. Again, I liked Once Upon a Broken Heart. It just wasn't my absolute favorite. All right, that is everything that I got when I was in America, as well as everything that I'm going to be getting rid of. I'm glad to be making more space on my bookshelves. I'm glad to be getting rid of a couple of books that I've just been hoarding and holding on to for a little bit too long. Yeah, if you liked this video, please let me know. I would love to do more hauls and unhauls. Okay, that's it. I wanted to talk about my books. If you have read any of these books, especially the ones that I recently picked up, please let me know what your thoughts are, spoiler free, especially for the books that I said that I don't know what they're about. Please let me know your thoughts and opinions. And that's it. Thank you, everybody. Bye-bye. See you in the next one.